We've got our first Power 4 team eliminated this week. What's going on YouTube? This is SG1 Sports. You're watching our college football channel. A new format, a little bit of a new format here with the playoff eliminator. I know a lot of you have asked me to kind of break it down into conferences, and that's what we're going to do here. So it's getting confusing with the 12-team playoff. It's a lot different this year, and so we're going to, again, break it up into conferences and just kind of do a reset here. So let's start with teams eliminated from the American and the Mountain West. So I'm viewing these two conferences the same. I'm viewing these conferences as a 3-loss elimination. So if you lose 3 games, you're eliminated. I don't think a 3-loss American or Mountain West champion is going to be ranked high enough to be that top Group of 5 champion. So 3 losses get you eliminated here. And you can see the teams already eliminated out of the American: Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, USF. So that's a big one. I don't think many people expected to see South Florida out of this this early. Now, 2 of their losses did come to Miami and Alabama. So you might can make an argument for them if they were to win out, but I don't think so. You got Tulsa, UTSA, UAB, Rice, and Temple. And then in the Mountain West, Air Force, Nevada, New Mexico, San Diego State, Utah State, and Wyoming. I got to throw UConn and UMass in there. I'm not going to do a whole page for the 3 independent teams. So those teams also eliminated up to this point. And so teams still alive in the American. We've got Army, East Carolina, Memphis, Navy, North Texas, and Tulane. And then on the other side, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Hawaii, San Jose State, and UNLV. So that means more than likely your Group of 5 team to make the playoff is going to come from these 12 teams. It's probably going to come from these 12 teams. It could come from Conference USA, the MAC, or the Sun Belt, but I don't think that that's the most likely scenario. Again, I think it will probably be one of these teams. I still kind of like Boise State, UNLV as well out of the Mountain West. Those, to me, are probably the teams. We'll see. Memphis and Tulane look pretty good. These teams, again, all still alive in the playoff race. And then we go to those other 3 conferences. I'm not going to read all these teams. You can see the teams eliminated out of Conference USA, the MAC, and the Sun Belt. Most of the teams are actually already out of it in these conferences. Still alive, we're going to combine all these: Coastal Carolina, Eastern Michigan, James Madison, Liberty, Louisiana, Sam Houston, Toledo, and ULM. So these teams, interestingly enough, ULM, their one loss came to Texas. So that they have not lost another game. I didn't realize that when I was looking up all the information for this video. But yeah, we're talking about, again, teams still alive out of Conference USA, the MAC, and the Sun Belt. So I showed you those teams that are still alive out of the Mountain West or the American. So either those teams or these teams right here on this page, those are the teams. That's all that's left. And we'll probably eventually, as this shrinks down, put all these teams together on one graphic because it's going to shrink down pretty quickly. All right, so that's what's going on in the Group of 5. That's what we're looking at. Now, how about new eliminations out of the Power 4? We can eliminate Florida State. So the way I'm looking at these conferences, I think that 4 losses eliminate you from at-large contention. For a lot of teams, it's actually going to be three losses. But you also have to look at getting to your conference championship game. And I think that if you're just talking about conference championship games, the SEC and the Big Ten, I think 3 losses, you've got no chance. And same thing with the ACC. When you look at Louisville, Miami, and Clemson, I don't see a way, right now, I just don't see a way a team gets into the ACC championship with 3 losses. So Florida State now with 3 conference losses, 4 losses overall. They're out of it. It is over for Florida State. And then in the Big 12, though, I think it's a little bit different because I think we could see a 3-loss Big 12 team get into the Big 12 championship. There's so much parity in that conference, and I think we could see chaos. So 3 losses could get you into the Big 12, but I think you need 2 or fewer losses to get in the ACC, the SEC, or the Big Ten. And then with Florida State having a non-conference loss, 4 losses, they're out of it. And look, they were out of it a long time ago. Nobody expected Florida State to bounce back and make the playoff, but technically, mathematically, they were still alive until they lost this past weekend to SMU, and they got blown out, by the way. So that's the only elimination so far out of the Power 4. Talked about South Florida. That one's kind of a surprise. Other than that, really, we haven't had any surprises, I think, from the Group of 5 teams. But yeah, Florida State, the only Power 4 team eliminated. So now I'm just going to go through each conference and give you my top contenders. We're not going to break it down into dark horses and all that. That's, we're starting to get into the season now. We're starting to really find out about these teams. So these are the teams that I think, again, are your top contenders. So we're going to start with Actually, first of all, I want to do this. So these teams are eliminated from an at-large bid. So these teams, in my opinion, have no chance to make it in without winning their conference. Really, this is, we talked about live support, teams on live support. This is the teams on live support graphic. These teams, they're done. I mean, none of these teams are making the playoff, but mathematically, technically, they could still win their conference. But yeah, Auburn, Baylor, Houston, Kansas, Minnesota, Mississippi State, Purdue, UCLA, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. There's really no chance these teams are going to make it, and they have no chance to make it as an at-large team. Again, maybe Houston turns it around, or Baylor, or Kansas. Maybe they turn it around. They wind up winning the Big 12. I mean, something crazy like that could happen, but I think these teams really probably out of it at this point. All right, so now let's get to the top contenders. In the Big 10, I'm looking at Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State, and USC. These seem to be the teams that I think could make the playoff and have a really good shot. Now, there are other teams that could get in there. Iowa is interesting because I think they're going to be favored in every game that they play except for Ohio State. If they lose that game, if they go 10-2, is that enough to get them in? I don't know. Their schedule's not all that tough. So that's an interesting one there. You got Nebraska, who's looked good. You know, Illinois looked pretty good. This one, this is going to be interesting to see if another team can emerge out of the Big Ten. But I think it's really down to these four teams. And they could all make it. I mean, all four of these teams can absolutely make it. Again, these are your top contenders at this point. Let's go to the SEC now. And you've got Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, and Georgia. These seem to be the top contenders, the teams that are in the driver's seat to make the college football playoff. Ole Miss was on this list last week, but losing to Kentucky means it's going to be tough for them. I'm not saying they're eliminated, but they can only lose one more game and probably need to lose to Georgia. That means they're going to have to go, I think, on the road this week to play South Carolina. They're going to have to go on the road to play LSU. It's going to be tough for Ole Miss. I just do not. I don't know that they can win all but one of their games the rest of the season. So I don't see them as a top contender. You know, there are, LSU is still alive. Texas A&M is still alive. There are other teams that still have a chance, but these are your top contenders in my opinion. Now let's go to the ACC. Clemson, Miami, and Notre Dame. Louisville, maybe. I think the problem for them is they've already lost to Notre Dame, and they have a good shot at losing to Kentucky again. But those are not conference games. So if they can find a way to beat Clemson or Miami and only finish with maybe one conference loss, even if they have two non-conference losses, if they win the ACC, they would be in. But I just don't view them as a top contender right now. I want to see a couple more games, and then maybe I think they play Miami in a few weeks, see how they look in that game, and maybe we'll put Louisville back into this category. But after the loss to Notre Dame, I don't quite see them as a top contender. And I know Miami struggled against Virginia Tech, but teams have bad games, and I think they're going to be just fine. And Clemson's looking really good as well. And I realize Notre Dame is not in the ACC, but we got to put them somewhere. So I put them here in the top contenders. Then the Big 12, I have no idea. You got Oklahoma State, BYU, Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Iowa State. Maybe Colorado should be in this discussion. This conference is crazy right now. If Cam Rising can't play for Utah, I don't think they're the favorites anymore. I don't know who the favorites are. Maybe Kansas State. They look really good against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's already got 2 losses, but they played probably their 2 toughest games. They've already played Utah. They've already played Kansas State. I realize they lost those games, but they have a much more manageable schedule the rest of the season. So they have a chance to get back in this thing. I'm not going to say they're not a top contender. In Colorado, I want to see a little bit more out of them before I'm ready to say they're a top contender, but maybe they should be in this category. They got a big win on Saturday. So Big 12, wide open. You could add more teams to this list probably, but these are the 6 that kind of stand out to me at this point. This is the updated playoff picture. Again, new eliminations. We're going to start to eliminate these Power 4 teams. Florida State was the first, but they'll start going down pretty quickly as we get into conference play. Your thoughts on the playoff race? Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below.